Hello. Hey, it works. They don't have a. All right. We have, I guess I'll hold the neck. All right. Oh, people up. All right. I'm glad to see everybody here, and also people on Owl. Hello. Welcome on this interesting day. Okay, so how many people got out there in the morning to garden a little bit, just eating, doing a little bit of,
Therapy, yep.
yeah, a little bit of therapy, little fertilizers, things, pruning what you should have pruned back in, fall. Yeah, that's my life. Okay. All right, so, I think we're getting the AV all worked out properly, so everybody can see it both here and Zoom land. I just want to welcome all the master gardeners who are here. Thank you for being here. Do we have interns? I know we've got interns tonight. Who's it? Yeah, got an intern back there. Welcome, glad you're here. Okay, to our intern, you want to give us your name? Okay, Kelly, welcome. Glad you're here. All right, do we have any visitors here? No, all right, I'll welcome everybody. I don't know who's all on Zoom land.
You were so close to being ready. So close.
Oh, Zoom land. Great. Just remind everybody who's here to silence your phones. Okay, that's why I have mine in my hand, so I make sure that I have it off. Okay. And all the Zoom attendees, make sure you're muted, because otherwise you'll hear everything that goes on in your house, and you don't want that to happen. And just remember that that owl is 360, so it'll find you if you make a noise. Okay, so everybody's gonna be quiet. All right. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Zanita, who's going to introduce our presenter, and then once we get all of the electronics together. I can explain how the electronics go, because it's like one of those things where this is connected to that. It's like, that song about the human body, the neck bone is connected. Well, we've got the same number of connections going on here. Okay, where is Nina at?
Right here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, here's Nina.
All right, our speaker tonight is Katy Marshall. Katy is a business owner, an artist, and a mushroom farmer, and a gardener. She has over 6+ years experience in all things fungi, from identification of wild species to growing gourmet and medical mushrooms. Katy also creates living sculptures of mushrooms. Her pieces have been in several local exhibitions, and when it comes to her garden, Katy enjoys finding ways to use different species of fungi to improve the overall health of her plants. I got turned on to Katy because a friend of mine went to a workshop at the waterfront botanical gardens, and she made, was it centerpieces?
No, we actually did a hands-on version of this. We were making garden beds.
And she had a program, and they said it was excellent. So I hunted her down, and she's here today, this evening, to tell us all about it. Okay.
Don't forget to turn your mic on. You want both? Nope, so we're gonna turn that one off. Otherwise you'll get all kinds of feedback. And turn that one on, and I'm gonna do one quick thing here, because I think. Hold on, I want to mute one thing because there was feedback. Okay, now give it a whirl.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here with Master Gardeners. I am a lot of things, but I am not a master at gardening. I love to. I grew up with a garden, and just something that's always been really important for me to have. But I'm always learning new things, and through, many of my mushroom adventures, I've started incorporating mushrooms into my garden. And it's a really simple process, and it's really beneficial for your garden. So I just wanted to come and talk to you guys about it. So a little bit about me. I am, I guess the best word for it, or the best phrase would be amateur mycologist, which really consists of going out in the woods and playing in the dirt. That's my favorite thing to do. I'll give you my TED Talk speech of how I got into mushrooms, because everyone asks me. When I was in my early 20s, my oldest child, my daughter, was diagnosed with neuroblastoma. She was 4 years old. And neuroblastoma is it's a soft tissue cancer. She went through chemotherapy and a number of different treatments. And while she was immune compromised, we couldn't go and play at the park. We couldn't go and be around other children. Simple cold, flu, those sorts of things could really harm her. So a lot of what we did was go out in the woods and play. And very lucky for me, my daughter is very precocious and asks so many questions. So when we were out in the woods, we would take pictures because she would want me to tell her what things were. So we would take pictures of all the plants and fungi and bugs and everything that we found. And one of the things that we were finding a lot of was a very common mushroom in, everywhere, all over the world. And it's a turkey tail mushroom. It looks kind of like little scales on the side of a dead log. And when we go home, I would research and kind of tell her a little bit about what we found. And in that process, I came across a study in Japan of breast cancer patients. And after their chemotherapy, they would give them kind of a concoction, but part of that concoction was a tincture of turkey tail mushrooms. And it would help these women recover from chemotherapy by helping their body produce new white blood cells. Well, I had a 4-year-old child that I had to give a shot to every day for 7 days after her therapy. That was $1,000 a vial. There were probably 2 shots in this little vial. Luckily we had state health insurance, we were okay, but it was like, I was looking at the prices of all of these things that we were doing. And I'm reading about this study done in another country on something that I find every day, and how that's doing the exact same job as this medication that I had to give my child a shot for. And that medication was to stimulate her bone marrow to create more white blood cells. And so I started kind of going down a rabbit hole of, wow, that is incredibly powerful. Luckily, we were outside of our treatment, and it was not a concern any longer, but that was just the beginning of the rabbit hole. We started hiking all the time. I eventually homeschooled my kids, and our science program was going to Bernheim 3 days a week and just making my kids go out in the woods and identify mushrooms and learn how I identify trees. And that was just a beautiful time in our lives. Eventually, I found out there was a local mushroom farm. I tracked them down, made them be my friends, and after several years of being close friends with this couple, they put me in charge of their grow room. So I was their production director for Fair Mountain Mushrooms in Upton, Kentucky. I did that until the pandemic. Restaurants didn't need as many mushrooms, so they couldn't afford as much staff, so they had to cut down. I then switched and took over a part of my family business. We own Stoneworks Lettering and Design. What we do is work with monument companies all over Kentucky and Indiana, and we do on-site lettering and laser engraving. And we had just bought a laser. I left that job and took over our laser engraving department. So that's my real job, the one that actually pays me. During the pandemic, we moved up here and I started getting into the local art scene and working with some artists. And I had plans while I was at the mushroom farm to work on some different art projects, because I was noticing that some of these mushrooms had different properties that could be used in a sculptural sense. So I had a lovely collaborator, I still work with her from time to time, Rebecca Norton, and we decided that we were gonna go for it, and we started creating mushroom sculptures out of mushroom mycelium, which is, we'll get to that part, but it's almost like styrofoam. It's been used in kind of potential building material ideas. And I've seen an entire gallery in New York, just the only thing that's in there is one single brick of this material. And I think bricks are boring, so I wanted to bring that into the art world and use that as a way to kind of connect ourselves to this material that might be able to replace styrofoam and other packaging and other building materials. Here we go, okay. So on to why we're here, why garden with mushrooms. Mushrooms actually can do a lot of really good things in your garden. Of course, they improve your soil. Earthworms really, really love mushroom mycelium. So you'll see in my garden beds, if you kind of dig down a little bit, there's a ton of earthworms in there. They really enjoy eating it. Everything kind of breaks down. It's breaking down all of your mulch. It's breaking down all of the organic materials in there into a really lovely soil. I have gotten, I don't know if you can see this photo here with the wild tomato plants. That is 4 tiny commercial plants that I bought from a garden center and planted. And by the end of that summer, I had buckets and buckets and buckets of green tomatoes that I had to pick before frost because the yields were insane. They were so good. You can see in the other picture with the steel ball where my mushrooms were coming up through that straw, and that was shortly after I planted the tomatoes. I had started my mushroom bed the fall before, and so that was in the spring, and I got pounds of mushrooms out of that as well. And down in the corner, those are wine cap mushrooms, and that's what I grow in my beds. In most of them, I usually use wine cap mushrooms. They are edible. They taste a little bit like a potato cooked in wine, and I don't know how else to describe it. But they're not bad. They're not like what you would associate with a button mushroom. They're a little different. They have definitely a different flavor, and they're great to cook with. They're big slicers. They're great to grill, great for burgers, things like that. And completely healthy, and you're getting more yields out of your soil. So a little bit before we kind of get into how a mushroom bed would be created, I want to talk about just sort of basic mushroom anatomy. The mushrooms that we see coming out of the soil or off of a stump, something like that, that is actually the fruiting body of a mushroom. That is, if you would think of it like an apple tree, that's an apple, and the actual tree is underground. There are miles and miles and miles of mycelium, which is this network of hyphal threads. And hyphae are these kind of thread-like, almost like neuron cells. They're very long, and they're able to kind of travel and move through soil and search for food and nutrients. And they actually digest on the outside of their body. So they encounter a nutrient source and kind of throw some enzymes at it and see what works until they can digest it, which is actually really cool because there are some mushrooms that have been trained in a lab or through other various ways to consume diesel fuel, to consume plastic, to break down so many different substances. There is a lot of really interesting research being done with that, and a process called mycoremediation, which is remediating a threatened plan, using mycology. So when we're talking about mycelium, I just wanted you to know what you're looking at, the thread-like substance. I was gonna bring a little scoop of my mushroom bed so everyone could see the white mycelium in my mulch, but, it was raining and I forgot. So some fungi can have a really interesting relationship with plants. A lot of times we think of fungi as a decomposer. There are a bunch of different relationships that different species have. Some are decomposers, some are parasitic, so they will actually kill the organism that they're growing on. But the ones that we're focused on today are mycorrhizal relationships. So mycorrhiza is a fungus which grows in association with the roots of a plant in a symbiotic or mildly pathogenic relationship. So what these hyphae, these little cells do, is they wind their way into the root, in between all those cells. And what they're doing is forming a symbiotic relationship. So they can give the plant something in exchange for something else. So there is an economy going on beneath our feet all the time. With these mycorrhizal relationships, that actually extends a plant's root system through the mycorrhiza, or through the hyphae. They'll trade water and different nutrients with a plant for the products of photosynthesis, so sugar, basically. There's this wonderful excerpt from a book that I can't remember the name of right now, but I will by the end of the thing. About this economic study that they did, which you can actually model economic systems in a petri dish using fungus, which is really magnificent. But take a garden where there are plants in this area that don't have very much access to phosphorus. And then you have a network of mycelium under the ground, and they know that these plants over here do not have enough phosphorus, really. But they also know that over there's a lot of phosphorus. So they will actually spend the cellular energy to bring that phosphorus. Instead of giving it to the plants that are near the phosphorus, who don't need it as badly, they'll expend the energy to bring it all the way over to these plants that don't have that access, in exchange for a higher price in sugar, which just blows my mind. But yeah, there is absolutely an economy of different nutrients, different chemical signals that are going on under our feet all the time. So a mushroom bed is kind of a way for you to introduce these benefits to your garden. There are also other ways, there are other products. I don't know if you've seen anything like MycoGrow or some sort of mycorrhizal inoculant that you can get at hydroponic stores or anywhere. That's what these are. But I like to be able to eat the mushrooms, that's my favorite part. So putting in a mushroom bed, it does all of that for you and allows it to kind of be an entire ecosystem. If you can see in this picture, the tomato plant that's been inoculated has a much denser root system that reaches much farther. So it's able to get a lot more nutrients. You're gonna get a higher yield, healthier plants, healthier soil. And of course, fresh mushrooms for you to eat with your tomatoes. So the mushrooms that I tend to use in my garden beds, I use a lot of the wine cap in my beds that I have intended to install, but I also have a pretty scattered area in my garden where I dump all of my used mushroom blocks. I grow my gourmet mushrooms that I sell at the farmer's market in plastic bags with sawdust and some other things in there. And once they stop producing for me or stop yielding enough for me to keep them around, I put them all in my back garden, I crush them up, and those mushrooms continue to grow as long as they are able to find a food source, mulch, twigs, leaves, anything that is in my garden that they can eat, they're gonna grow there. So that's where all of my oyster beds are. And the oysters in a mushroom bed, instead of kind of the shelf-like structures that you see on the side of a tree, they actually grow into these big, beautiful cabbage-like clusters. They're so pretty. At the mushroom farm, our compost heap every now and then would flush, and you'd see hundreds of these giant cabbage things out in the yard, and, you know, it's clean if you pick them before the bugs get them. That's, we would go out there and like, okay, well, we can't sell those, but we can eat them. So, yeah, oysters are my favorite little buddies. But the wine caps are so cool, and they actually can get like this big and like a saucer around. I couldn't find them. I was trying to find this picture of my kids holding one of these. They get really big. They're not tasty at that point, but they can get really big. So when you install a mushroom bed, you can do it in an existing garden. You will want to do that either in spring or fall. Fall is a really great time to install the bed, as long as you do it a couple of weeks before the frost starts. And they're pretty hardy, as long as they have a good chance to get a hold of their food and sort of get comfortable, then they're good. You want a shady or very well watered area. They don't like to dry out. They don't like to be too hot. So if you're gonna have plants that will shade that, that's the perfect situation. They're really great companions for asparagus, strawberries, garlic, tomatoes. They'd probably be great with peppers as well. Anything where they're gonna be shaded well, is a great spot. Your pathways, if you have mulched pathways in your garden, that's, you know, that could be producing food for you as well, and that's gonna break that down into good soil. Any mulched area in your landscaping, under trees. I would be careful with oyster mushrooms and putting them in a tree, under a tree that is ill. If you have, because it will parasitize that tree and eventually kill it, so you don't wanna do that. But if you have a healthy tree, a healthy bush, something like that, that's a great area for it. If you have a whole bunch of cut up logs somewhere on your property that are just gonna kind of decompose, grow some mushroom spawn over there. And I wanna back up just a little bit, because I wanna talk about what mushroom spawn is, and I don't think I put this in here. So when you want to source materials for this project, you're gonna be looking for something called mushroom spawn, which is commercially produced. It is soaked in sterilized grain in a bag that has had a specific species introduced. So it's killed everything else. This is still working. Okay. It's killed. Okay, thank you. It's killed every other pathogen that's in there, and all that's growing is the specific species that the farmer wants to put in there. So when you purchase, I do have a list of resources. When you purchase from one of those companies, you purchase mushroom spawn. They have grain spawn, sawdust spawn. There's also plug spawn if you've ever done shiitake logs or anything like that. It's on little wooden dowel plugs. It grows on those. And then you are able to drill holes in fresh wood and plug the spawn in there, and that'll let that mycelium take hold of that. But today we're focusing mainly on sawdust and grain spawn. Sawdust spawn is a little cheaper. Okay, so these are some photos of one of my more recent, mushroom beds that I've installed. This is my garden. The little black squares are my test tiles from, my laser engraving. So when I get a portrait, that a loved one sends in for their family member's stone, I don't immediately put it on a several $1,000 stone. I get these little granite tiles. So I have hundreds of these around. And I was like, well, they make great sketch for my garden. So I call it my garden of souls. And it's kind of nice because it's like, you know, I like form a little bit of a relationship with, you know, the idea of a person when I'm doing their laser portrait. And so it's like, oh, I remember her. And it's sweet to revisit that. But regardless, your first step is to block out all your weeds. You want to put down a layer of cardboard. Mushrooms love cardboard. They'll even eat pizza boxes. So anything. It can have grease on it. I would avoid slick paper with a lot of dye. But Amazon boxes, pizza boxes, paper bags, anything like that. You just want to kind of block out all of those weeds. Water it down really good. This was a very windy day and me and Rebecca had a hard time with this one. So yeah, that's his first step. And I just want you guys to know, thank you so much for being here and being very patient with me. I don't do talks very often. This is actually, this kind of darker black material that you see in the center here with the little bits of white. That's actually the sawdust spawn. So it looks kind of icky. But that's just where all that mycelium is in there. It's ready to go. It's ready to find new food. So you want to put a thick layer of mulch over that cardboard, enough so you're not seeing the cardboard. I would say probably about an inch thick. Your next step, you're going to take that spawn, you open the bag and grab handfuls of it and just kind of sprinkle it all over. I would say 1 6-pound bag would do, I think I eventually went with about 8 foot, 3 by 8 or 4 by 8 in that entire bag. And I used maybe half a bag. You can use all of it. You can spread it around other areas. If you're not doing a very large area, 1 bag should be fine. Then you want to take chopped straw, shredded paper, unused pet bedding, and what I specifically mean is hemp hurd, which is chopped up hemp stems. So if you have somebody in the hemp industry that has a whole bunch of hemp stems that are available, that's just as good as straw. But you don't want to use anything like cedar or pine. Mushrooms don't really care for those. The cedar is definitely not going to be good for it, so it's not going to do well. And you don't want manure in there. There's too much nitrogen for it right away. And then once that chopped straw is down, and before it all blows away, water that down again. So you're gonna kind of repeat this as like you're making a lasagna. And there's not really any limit to how many layers, but I would do a good 3 layers, and that'll give that enough mycelium to take hold and also enough nutrition for the year for that mycelium. And every year after that, you want to remulch. Your mushroom bed may be eaten by worms by next year. If so, that's unfortunate, but also nice soil. But every spring, fall, every year, I would remulch, add more straw, add more material, grass clippings, leaves, anything like that. Just like any other compost, just no cedar and no pine. Again, water that well, and you're gonna water this bed every day for about a week. especially if it's gonna be really hot. But if you're doing this in the spring or the fall, that shouldn't be as much of a concern, but if it's very hot or dry, make sure it's really well watered, give it about a week to really take hold, and then water every week, just as you would your regular garden bed, depending on precipitation. So if you have a really wet week, don't worry about it. If it's a very dry week, maybe once or twice, get out there and water it. As long as it's got water, it's okay. And then maybe a couple of months after you put that bed down, to be honest, I check like once a week because I'm always curious, but just go ahead and kind of scoop some of that away and see if you're seeing those white threads of mycelium grow through that. That'll tell you if it's a healthy bed that's taking off. So, your oyster and your wine cap, they tend to like to fruit, when the weather changes. So in spring and fall, oysters specifically really love it when it like first hits about 40 degrees. Or after a hot spell, you have a cold, wet day or two, and then they'll flush. And that's what it's called when they all pop out. They kind of all pop out at the same time. That's called a flush. The wine caps, you want to harvest them early. They get much, much bigger than this picture. But if you can see on the stem there, there's a little, looks like a little skirt that's called a veil, and it'll be all attached to the cap. And once it gets so big, that cap starts to unfurl and that veil breaks. So I usually harvest them either before that veil breaks or just after. If you see any bugs or any mushy spots, obviously you don't want those. They taste better the younger they are. Oysters, they can get really, really big. I've had some oysters that were like the size of a dinner plate that have come out of my compost that they were really fine. A couple of beetles in there that you just kind of flick away, but obviously those are better again to harvest a little bit smaller. The caps kind of roll under and have this nice little round edge, and as they grow, they kind of unfurl. So if there's still that round edge, that's a really good time to harvest them. And all you do is, with the oysters, you can just twist them. With the wine caps, you can just twist them, but I also like to take a knife and just cut the bottom off, and that way I don't get any soil in my container that I'm harvesting into, because it's kind of tough to get all that out. Mushrooms, you do not need to rinse, unless you feel like they were near something that would really be a problem. You're cooking them. Look out for bugs, for worms. There are a couple of types of beetles that really, really, really love mushroom gills, and they'll be up in there in between. Most of the time, if you can either soak them in salt water, knock them on a countertop a couple of times, and those will fall out. But most of the time, I do not rinse my mushrooms. I might wipe them off with a towel or something, or brush them off with a brush if there's really a lot of soil, but I try and keep soil out of them when I'm harvesting. Okay, so this is the really serious part and very, very, very important. So I have a lot of slides on it. Excuse me. Never consume any mushrooms that you cannot identify. That is so important, and as mushrooms become more and more exciting and more in the public eye, from fantastic fungi and things like that, I can't tell you how many times I have talked to people that were just like, hey, just picked a mushroom and ate it. And that's terrifying. It's really not a good practice at all. Excuse me. So there is always a potential that something else will grow in your mushroom bed. This is a place that fungus loves. So if your fungus that you intended to grow did not catch hold, you might have something else. So you really want to be able to identify what you were growing. So wine caps have a very, blatantly wine red cap. And it's, or maybe even a red brown, but there's not a lot of neighborhood type urban mushrooms there aren't any that look like that. There is one mushroom called, a red rusula or an emetic rusula that does grow out in the woods, and it's got a bright white cap or a bright red cap. Squirrels love it. It will make you puke. That's why it's called emetic. But that one you can actually, I'm not gonna say that part because that's encouraging something that you guys don't need to do. I had read at one point that you can just taste, like, just chew up a little bit and spit it out, and that the emetic rusula is peppery like a radish. And that's how you can tell that that's what that is, but you don't swallow it, do not swallow it, don't do that. That was part of my forest science class that only mommy participated in. So wine cap mushrooms, their cap is about 2 inches across, 2 to 6 inches across when they're at harvest size. Again, they can get very large, but it's just a very traditional mushroom shape. The gills are white. They do become a little bit grayish, as they age. The stalks are very thick and they're solid all the way through. So if you cut it in half, it's not gonna have a hollow section. If you take a spore print, and that you'll see a lot of identification websites or people who do identifying mushrooms will identify with a spore print because each of these mushrooms has a different color spore print that they produce. So their spore print is gonna be kind of a purple, brown, black, somewhere in there, kind of a deep purple. They really love wood chips and lawns. And they look a lot like the agaricus species. So, that would be your toadstool, the Amanita. No, agaricus isn't that, that's an Amanita species, but they do look very similar. So agaricus is like a button mushroom or a, portobello mushrooms, which are actually the same species. I'm not gonna talk about big mushrooms right now. But they have a different spore print color and they have a different gill color, and you're probably not gonna have those in your garden. Oyster mushrooms are a lot different. They have, their stem or stipe is kind of off to the side. So they grow in sort of a shelf or a bracket, style. And they grow in clusters, so you'll have a whole bunch of lobes almost on one kind of stem cluster. They have decurrent gills. I was trying to think of that word. Decurrent gills, which means they kind of go all down the stem to about halfway down that stem. So they don't stop right under the cap like a button mushroom would. I tend to have brown, gray, even blue cap color. And then I don't think I have a spore print. Do I have that on there? No. I think they're white. Spore prints are white on them. I have white spores all over my basement from my grow tents, so they're definitely white. But they're pretty easy to identify, and I always recommend checking other sources, their Facebook groups, their websites, do a Google search, take a picture and do a Google image search, but identify very certainly before you eat or consume any mushrooms. And this is why. There are 2 mushrooms in our area that can kill you. That if if you don't die, it's because you got a liver transplant. Like, you're not getting away with this one. So please be very smart when you ID. Don't go out and just try any kind of mushroom. It's a terrible idea. Number one on our list of these fancy little mushrooms is the destroying angel or death cap mushroom. It is, it's an Amanita species, which it's hard to see in this picture. It kind of comes out of a little bulb as it grows. It has an amatoxin, which interferes with DNA synthesis. It messes up your liver. The symptoms don't start immediately. You may, a couple hours after eating it, start to feel a little bit of a tummy ache and feel really bad. And then that will pass and you'll feel fine for about 2 days. And that's what's scary about it, is you don't know you're dying as you're dying. And then once that's over, you're in the emergency room. So that's really, very, very serious mushroom. Our next one is the deadly Galerina. This is a little brown mushroom, and if you know anybody that knows a lot about mushrooms, you may have heard them say, I don't know, it's a little brown mushroom when you ask them what it is, because there are so many little brown mushrooms in the world. They're on our lawns, they're in the forest, they're everywhere. And that, therefore, it's really hard to identify them. So the deadly Galerina, very similar to the death cap. Your first symptoms are gonna be a few hours in, you'll feel fine for a little bit, and then your liver will be gone. So the death cap mushrooms can be found everywhere. They're in the woods, they can be in lawns. They're not the same as the fairy ring mushrooms, but again, you don't want to eat those either. Those will make you puke. And it's not worth it, just in case that's something that's different. So at first they can kind of look, this little egg shape that it's coming out of, they can look like puffball mushrooms, which are edible. You have to know how to identify the difference between those two, and there is a safe way to do that. But as it grows, it comes out of this cup, and it has a veil just like the other one. When that veil breaks, they can also look like patty straw mushrooms. We don't have a lot of those here. This one says, an adult nearly died in 2003 after mistaking a death cap for one of those puffball mushrooms. So it's very important to be able to identify properly. Does anyone here forage for morels? Yay, it's morel season. I don't remember. I have zero luck. I cannot find them. They don't like me. And I found a lot of other mushrooms, but I have zero luck with morels. I've found 3 in my whole life. So there is, with morels, there is something called a false morel. And you can tell the difference fairly easily. The false morel, it has that kind of ugly, wrinkly cap, but it's not as defined as a morel would be. So you can tell the difference. If you see a morel that's like, oh, that's kind of deformed, just don't pick that one. Also, a false morel has I think a solid stem. Morel hunters, they're hollow. Okay, false morels have a solid all the way through stem. They're not gonna be hollow. So morel has a hollow stem on the inside. But those are really easy to kind of tell the difference. So I don't discourage your morel hunting. So if you have eaten, or if a child, a grandchild, a dog, any person you suspect has eaten a deadly or potentially poisonous mushroom. Take very clear photos of the cap, underneath the cap, make sure you get photos of the gill, take a picture of the stem, maybe cut it in half and see if there's any of that mushroom left. Take as many photos as you can and bring the specimen to the ER with you. That will help them identify what kind of mushroom that is. There's a registry of people who can be called in those moments, that can help doctors identify that mushroom. And of course, poison control. Have the number posted in your house somewhere. Does everybody have a magnet on their fridge with the poison control number? Is that something that everybody has, or is that not everybody has?
Oh, I can see that, Rob.
Everybody needs a poison control number. I remember growing up with one and just being like, I hope I never have to do that. Okay, so this one, I don't want to be controversial. I just want to be very cautious. Psilocybin mushrooms, the fun kind. I cannot tell you how many times, every time I am out in a capacity that has anything to do with mushrooms, that I get asked, what about the fun ones? Every single time, every farmer's market, every art show, everything I do, somebody is asking me about psilocybin, which is great. It has its place. If you've read any of the books coming out, like How to Open Your Mind and stuff, there's a lot of research going on about that. But that does not mean that you should go out and pick any little brown mushroom. Because they can look so incredibly similar to Galerina. So this is psilocybin right here, and this is Galerina. Would you be able to tell the difference? No. A little bit of fun is not worth your liver. Do not do it. I don't think that we need to go over the difference on how to identify those. The psilocybin has a blue bruise. If you touch it, it'll kind of start to turn blue where you touch it, and Galerina does not. If you need that information, if somebody has eaten something out of your yard randomly and you need to know the difference, there's that. Again, use your identification resources. Mushroomexpert.com I use a lot. They have, it's a super complex, a way to find the mushroom that you want, but it's very, very thorough. It gives you a very thorough explanation, even down to the microscopic level, what the spores would look like under a microscope. I also use mushroom identification Facebook groups. Usually when I encounter a new mushroom, before I decide that it is edible, even if I know pretty much that that's going to be an edible mushroom, I will go and make sure I have probably at least 3 sources that I can confirm that is what I'm looking at. Don't just Google it. And for places to get supplies, Field and Forest and North Spore are 2 of my favorite mushroom suppliers. I buy from North Spore a lot, and they have a cool like membership points thing, which I should probably get some by now. Field and Forest has a really good selection as well, and they have other products on their website. Again, you'll be looking for grain or sawdust spawn. Chopped straw, I usually just get the bag. It's like a bale of chopped straw. Easy straw, I think is what it's called. And it does have a tack in it, but that has never caused a problem. It's for like landscaping, like when you put new grass down, they add a little bit of a tack of glue in there so it all sticks together. The wind does not care about that, by the way. The wind does not care if it's tacky. It takes it away. But Menards, Lowe's, Tractor Supply, Rural King, everybody has chopped straw. It's really simple to find. If you got a farmer friend, borrow a bale of straw. It doesn't have to be chopped. I like it chopped. It just makes it easier to spread. My favorite mulch supplier is Chip Drop. I don't know if anybody here has ever used Chip Drop. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I still have a big pile in my yard. So Chip Drop, what they do is connect arborists to people who need a load of mulch. So you get on there, you fill out their little questionnaire. Do you need mulch? Do you need, like logs? Do you need a mix of those? Say, I need this as soon as possible. Take a picture of the area you want it dumped, and they'll connect to an arborist in your area, and they have a list of people that they can go and just dump the truck at. So it's completely free. It's amazing. I got an entire dump truck full of mulch. Like, I've been handing out mulch to all of my friends, and they're like, come on up here and take some of this mulch. My husband's not happy with me.
Just another suggestion, is any of your tree trimmers, there's a guy in Charlestown who's just dying to get rid of mulch.
He needs to get on Chip Drop as a,
It's not, he's not
To pay for that.
savvy.
When they do it through Chip Drop, I think they have to pay.
do they have to pay? Oh, well, that sucks for
Yeah,
them.
no, but I have a guy in town.
I liked not paying.
They're always trying to get rid of mulch.
Yeah, any time you can get it locally like that. There's also, Earth First, Nugent Sand Company. Anywhere you can get mulch. I like cheaper the better is good for me. Hardwood mulch is best. Again, we don't want cypress, cedar, pines. But any hardwood mulch, mixed mulch is great. They're very happy with that. All right, and the best part, where we all get to talk. So, any questions? Oh, I'm gonna take your question first, ma'am.
How can you tell when you get mulch from Tom, Dick, and Harry that it doesn't have the occasional walnut tree all chopped up in there?
Delete walnuts. Yeah, they're happy with walnut, just not a whole bunch of it.
Okay.
A little bit of walnut is fine.
I've read before that most fungi don't form relationships with things in the brassica family, like kale and cabbage and broccoli. Have you seen that?
I probably have at some point, but I forgot it, so thank you for the reminder. But I do think it would still benefit your soil near them. I don't think, they may not form a relationship, but it's still gonna be in your soil and will form a relationship with nearby plants. How do,
Lisa will give you the Zoom questions.
okay.
Carol Moore asked, do you have suggestions on finding the route and being able to do it road down to where you found them?
Morels have a very complicated relationship with plants. They actually spend some of their life cycle as, like a symbiotic relationship. And then once the organism that they're growing in conjunction with, starts to get sick, they become a parasite, and then they become a decomposer. They also are very specific to the bacterial ecosystem in the soil. The only people who have had very much success growing morel mushrooms are the Danes. They're doing it in Holland, but they won't tell us how to do it. So I have not seen anybody successfully move morels, because so if you find a morel, it's probably near like a tulip poplar. They're actually interacting with that plant. So you can't take it out of its home and it continue to grow. I am the worst person to tell anybody how to find morels because I cannot. So I'm sorry to not give the best answer on that. Mhm.
Is, that for growing in garden pathways mulch, do you recommend the spawn dust or the spawn plug?
I don't recommend the spawn plugs for this process. There's just not enough, like surface area. You need to be able to spread out, smaller bits of that. So don't use plugs, use either grain spawn or sawdust spawn. Either one will work.
Can you repeat the questions when they ask?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So that question was, is it better to use, sawdust or grain spawn or plug spawn? And plug spawn, again, is the little dowels that they've inoculated, and that's for, inoculating logs. And it's just a different process entirely. It's not gonna be very helpful in your garden. Oh, you first and then.
Go ahead.
Kathy,
How would you establish mushrooms in an asparagus bed?
Her question was, how would you establish mushrooms in an asparagus bed? I would just do this process in the fall after everything's been cut down, right over where your asparagus is growing. And in the spring, they're gonna come up right through that. It's not gonna, you may, because of the cardboard, you might have more of a problem. If it's already pretty mulched there, I would just do that layering over top of your mulch. The cardboard's more for weed suppression, so if you have a situation like that, just skip that part.
Have you ever had to try to rescue one of your mushroom beds from contamination of other mushrooms? And if so, what did you do?
Oh, that is a really good question. She asked if I've ever had to rescue one of my mushroom beds from an encroaching other mushroom. I have not actually had to do that. I have lost one of my mushroom beds to worms, or possibly I didn't water them. That could be it too. But that part of my garden just is right in the sun and does not retain moisture. But I have not seen other fungus encroach. It might be really difficult to see that with, because it's in mulch. If you can see it on a petri dish, they definitely have like a little line where you can see them kind of battling with their enzymes and stuff. There's sort of a line of demarcation there, but you wouldn't be able to see that with mulch. If you see something like green mold, or some other kind of funky mold thing growing there that you know isn't the mycelium that you're wanting, I usually treat everything with peroxide. It doesn't harm the mushrooms that I want to stay, but it kills green mold. That's what most mushroom farmers use in their farms at any scale. It's safe, it's food safe, and it breaks down into water, so it's not gonna harm any other plants around it. Any other questions?
Do you make it into a spray or
Yeah, she asked if I made it into a spray. I get the spray bottles of peroxide, but if it's like on your ground, you can just pour it. Yeah, it's not gonna hurt it, no matter how much you put on there. Yeah, it'll hurt the bad guys. Yes.
I have a lot of squirrels.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, are they a problem?
She asked if squirrels are a problem. Squirrels actually love mushrooms. They also love tomatoes, but they're not going to be a problem for the growing mycelium. They may come and snack on the mushrooms when they're growing out of the ground, but they're not gonna dig up that mycelium. There's just not, like, it's growing into the wood. They're not gonna wanna eat that. So, they may dig and hide their goodies down in there. But that's not gonna harm it either. So if you're okay with sharing a couple bites, usually they just take like 1 or 2 bites of a mushroom and then go off to the next one. If you're okay with sharing a couple bites with the squirrels, there shouldn't be an issue. Anyone else?
Let's do our secret of number.
Thank you for the seeds. I really appreciated that.
Thank you very much for being here. We
Thank
learned a
you so
lot.
much.
We learned that when in doubt, don't eat it. All right. All right, so, we are about ready for our 10-minute Great. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. But before we do that, just a reminder, Jeanette is taking, funds for, pollinator shout outs. Mike is, he's got to sign up for volunteers for pollinator day. If you haven't already signed up, be sure to sign up. It's always a fun day. And also taking, money if you've ordered t-shirts or totes. And of course, the seed savers are back there with bunches of seeds, and how many already have got some seeds? And how you wanna go back and get some more seeds? Anyway, we got a 10-minute break, okay? Everybody, it's time for our meeting to start again. Just a reminder, I also forgot to tell you, if you haven't already done it, to pick up your ID card that's sitting over there in the bright orange. Yeah. Let's see. And for those of you on Zoom, they'll be at the office or in this meeting, okay? Okay, I'm gonna call this, meeting to order. And it is now 7:47, so we can get started here. And first up, we have, Veronica with the minutes.
So the minutes were published in the last Sunnyside Times. Read them. Anybody have any questions or edits that we need made? I got some.
Move to accept.
Who is that?
Bonnie.
Just Bonnie.
I'm Bonnie and Karen.
Bonnie and Karen. Any order you want.
Yeah, we know how this works.
Any, all those in favor? Opposed? You're good.
Excellent. Thank you, Veronica. All right. We are moving right along. We have, the treasurer's report up next.
Yeah, it's ready. It's on.
Okay. We're just starting to gear up with financial activity. One thing that, we've not had before is we got part of the money that's for Pollinator Day. That's this big $6,500. It was a donation, but that's for Purdue Extension, Floyd County to spend. So it's not like we get money, so. And then we just had a little bit of activity with, registration for a youth master gardener. The program committee had some expenses, and, Make a Holiday Reads got a refund on their Danish deposit. So our ending balance is $26,761.67.
That's right. No, you didn't tell it. No. You want to try? No. Yeah, okay. Question.
What was the cost of all the different classes? It was about $3,000.
Yeah, the read classes are very good. The read classes are only fundraiser for last year, and they did a great job. The other thing that actually did a great job was all the projects who were very frugal and, reused things and didn't spend a whole lot of money. And so we ended up with basically the same amount of money that we started the year with. And hoping that everybody will again be very frugal. That's the key word. Then we don't have to panic, okay? Frugality. Gardeners are always frugal, right? We just reuse everything. All right, let's go on. The next thing up, we've got Mike. Mike has been doing a lot of work on the Sunnyside Master Gardener webpage. I don't know if you've been looking at it, but he just wants to go through it a little bit with you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see what you did. Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Sorry, I thought it was a PDF at first. My bad.
It's the real thing.
My bad. I thought, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And if you haven't been on the webpage, you need to go and look. I mean, it's up to date,
Well, first of all, it's just,
You tell me what you want me to do. I'll man it. You just tell me what you want me to do.
well, I just want to show you what's on the webpage if you haven't seen it. And, yeah, I'll do some. Yeah, I just want to show you, what's on the webpage, haven't seen it. When you first come up, you'll be at the home screen. And if you click on the about, thing, that's a little blurb that tells you what we're all about. This side is the public side. If you go to the next one, these are all our gardens and projects. And so, I, tried to scrounge what I could find that was on the webpage, try to put this together. If you click on one of those pictures, you'll actually go to a description of that particular garden. So I want the managers to look at this and tell me, is that what I want the public to see? This is the public side, okay? You can see we got pictures on there, we got a map. Roger did most of this work. I just kind of dug it up and refreshed it a bit. The event thing, I can't get it to work. I'm working on that. Right now, you should be able to see the Youth Master Gardener. Okay, that's working. Tried to get Pollinator Day working, and that's not yet, but I'm working on that. Then we have the education videos part, and that is that's pretty old, and I need to work on that. Next thing is I want to go over. Yeah, you can skip that one. You can. There's links. Is this one right here for SMG members. Now, when you first click on that, it will ask for your email and your password. You have to set that up, okay? And whenever people who do that for the first time, that'll send me an email. And I look through to see if you're an official member, and then I grant you access. And here's where you can find a lot of stuff. You have the Google Drive documents training stuff there, the Eventbrite, we don't need that. This is where I want to show you, it says current Sunnyside Times newsletter. I hope that is March. There it is. Okay, so that's where you can always find the latest newsletter, okay? So you can go back now. And if you go down, you see newsletter, calendar, video archives. That's where I'm putting most stuff. Just click on that whole thing and see, you can see all the newsletters right there, going all the way back to, I think, 2018 or, okay, they're all there. And then, if you see all the videos that I could find, are there as well. So all of these meeting videos will be at the top if you scroll to the top there. You can see I already got February up there, and as soon as March gets the thing, I'll put that up there too. So you can use this page. This is the one page you really want to have at your fingertips, because I'm trying to put most of the stuff there. And I even put in the extension newsletter. So I thought I'd help you out there. And then down here is stuff. There's the master directory, the 24 master directory, the project books. Now, this is the thing that the interns are going to be looking at when they decide what projects they want to work with. And all you managers, you already were given information about this, and we collected all those new descriptions you had, and that's right there. And the SMG constitutions and bylaws, that's going to change, I think, next month, right? We're going to vote on the new one.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you'll see a new constitution and bylaw there. And then the policies and procedures, that'll be new too. For you managers, there's the reimbursement forms, and you can either use that is basically a spreadsheet, or you can fill out a PDF, okay? And the other thing is the local vendors with SMG discounts, I've got to check to make sure that is current. Now that I got my card, I'll be able to do that. And then there's some other stuff there. And you will not see that Sunnyside MG accounts. That's mine, okay? You can't see that. But other than that, and if you can come up with anything else that you think would be useful to put on that webpage, let me know and I'll try to incorporate it. And, again, it's sunnysidemg.org. Now, if you type .com, that's okay, because we reserved that one as well, because we didn't want weird things going about them. So we just kind of grabbed that one, but it points to the same webpage. So does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Do you use the same, password number that you, when you put in your R's?
No.
No,
That's
that's
up to you.
that's a different system.
So here, look here, where it says enter your Purdue volunteer hours.
Yes,
Purdue page,
Okay.
it's just a
different
link.
password.
It's just a link.
Nope,
Yeah,
that's okay. But I mean, you could make it a password if you chose to use the same password for both the Sunnyside
you could do
and
that.
side
That would be
and
okay.
that.
Okay.
Since you're not spending money, you don't have to worry about that, people.
But here's the thing, so if you choose to use the same password and you're like, the system kicked me out, Gina, how do I might have to reset this, and then you're gonna end up with two passwords anyway. Cause if I,
Quite often.
right, cause if I reset your password, he's not gonna know.
Okay.
Cause when I reset it, it's just for Purdue.
Okay, but yeah, that's a good point. These are two separate systems. And so you do have to communicate to both of them. You got to put in your hours at Purdue, but then you find your information on our side. So, any other questions? Yes.
I'm already signed into SMG. Do I have to revise that or anything? Your correction.
No,
Thank you.
no, I basically took what Roger gave me and been running with it since then, so. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Appreciate all your help on that. Gina, you're next.
Oh, I'm next, so sorry, hold on.
No, you're good, you're running the equipment.
Ill prepared. Okay, I don't know, what was on my to-do list for tonight? Okay, I know April sixth is a work day at my office. We're gonna work on the ponds and everything, get it ready for pollinator day. There is master gardener interns. Okay, oh, Kelly left already. Okay, so show up tonight. Intern class is going well. There's about 30 of them. So if you have a chance, reach out to them, welcome them to the group. They're all super excited. I think we have like over half of them have signed up to help at pollinator day. So try to help welcome them. They're still kind of figuring things out and they're still a little overwhelmed by the class. I can't imagine why. The things are going well with them, but just keep encouraging them. Several of them are a little afraid of the final exam, even though we know that they can pass it and it's fine. Let's see, pollinator day. Are you talking about pollinator day or am I? Oh, I am. Okay, cool. Ill prepared tonight. That's fine. Pollinator day, April 27th. Y'all are gonna come and we're anticipating 1,600 folks this year, so up about 200 from last year. Kevin Weiner is one of our speakers. If y'all follow All Bugs Go to Kevin on Facebook or heard of him,
That's funny.
he thinks because he has high expectations for his appearance here that he's gonna have tons and tons of people. We'll see, because he thinks we'll hit over 1,600 because he's coming, and I'm like, let's just go for the 1,600 because that's what we can manage, is 200 extra a year. So we'll be getting more information out about pollinator day. If you haven't signed up, go sign up. You gotta pay for shirts and stuff. Mike's taking money. So he's in charge. But invite everybody. We have tons of flyers out. Please share the Facebook post. Sarah from my office has been doing weekly Saturday Facebook post about it. So please get that out. That's what's gonna help us, I guess, kind of keep it going and keep it in the public eye. If you're interested in third grade, I'm always interested in having people help with third grade ag in the classroom. Always need help. Bev, are you gonna help me some more? Okay, you probably don't wanna agree with that, but that's okay. We'll get you on some more schedules for that. Let's see here. Floyd County 4-H Fair is coming up in June, the 5th through the 8th. I would like Sunnyside to take one night to work my little farm. I don't know which night that is yet, but it would be one night from 4 to 8. Yes. oh, Kathy's going to, so you're not gonna tell me this now, you know what's gonna happen, I'm gonna go home and prep my house for my contractor to come tomorrow, and I'm gonna forget. So send me an email, if you're volunteering for stuff, send me an email so I don't forget. But don't respond, I'm not ignoring you, but there's about 300 emails in my inbox that I have to deal with at some point. I'm not ignoring you, I'm just prioritizing my stuff, is what I'm doing, prioritizing.
You need a secretary.
I have a secretary, but I keep her too busy. You know this, like, keep her too busy. Let's see, oh, there is another event coming up May 18th. I will get more information out. We're starting a new event at Community Park, and it's going to be the Floyd County Showcase. So the idea behind it is Master Gardeners can have a booth, and people have plant questions, they can come there. Soil and Water is gonna have a booth, so if people have soil questions, they can go there. We'll highlight the county parks. I'm gonna try to get some booths, not for ag, but let's say someone needs to figure out they need to help with elder care because they've got a parent aging. Well, where do you go? How do you find these resources in the county? So highlighting what resources are available in Floyd County. Don't have all the details worked out yet because you know it's only March and I've still got a few weeks. But be on the lookout for that also. I think that's all I have, Diane, unless you think I'm missing something terrible.
What about Harristown? Did you-
That's, the Paris is not on me.
Okay.
Bad, oh, yeah, I got them. They're not me badges, they're just people I have to find in the audience. So I cut them out.
Thank you very much, Gina. All right, next up, we have some project, team leaders. I also wanted to let the team leaders know that, your budgets have been approved by the, executive committee, so you're good to go this year. First, Beth, let's talk about the butterfly garden.
Okay, I am kind of in charge of the butterfly garden this year. So we have been looking at it and we get a lot of people coming up to the butterfly garden. And a lot of them are students that were raised and they're bringing their kids up. So they are really impressed when I tell them Ray designed this. So anyway, at this point, we're in a revitalization mode with the butterfly garden, and we're breaking it into 3 phases. So our first phase is going to be remove the overgrowth and invasive bushes. We're looking at the privet and most of the butterflies. I can't do all of it at one time. If I took all the bushes out, the butterfly would come down the hill the next time it rained. So we're going to take a few out at a time and replace them with new bushes, different kinds of plants. Open it up so that you can actually see it. We're making a list of plants, for the plant list. So we're looking at replacing some of those with natives such as nightbarks, the oak leaf hydrangea, arborvitaes, the 6 to 8 foot ones. We went through, my son Matthew, some of you might know him. He and I are working together on this plant list to turn it into soil and water, because we can possibly get a grant to help us with this. So we're gonna be trying to make it less labor intensive. To me, if you're up there for more than 2 hours, it's, and having to do this constantly, it's too much. So, Matthew's looking into perennials that we can exchange for annuals to change that part around where it's feasible. So some of the things we've looked at, salvias, penstemons, shastas, sedums, jopali, coreopsis, speedwells, gaillardias, some different things to put up into that garden. To combat the erosion that we have anyway, because this is a downhill if you haven't been there before. And we get the runoff from the parking lot, we get the runoff from Lisa Canal, Marcy Lane, and it all comes down on us. I actually had an architect that told us that they were going to pave the ballpark. And I said, no, you can't. And he said, well, why? That is our ballpark. We own our ballpark. They lease it from us. Because I said, if you pave it, you will flood out Marcy Lane and you will flood us out. I said, with the amount of water that comes down there. So we have our issues. We're talking about using, exploring some berms, putting some berms on the top, and also using some of what they call erosion socks. I've got a couple of them down around on the other part of the Optimist Club. They're black, and, Ray had actually told me at one point, he said, Beverly, he said, we need to plant above the butterfly garden some purple and some white clovers. He said, rows of it. He's looking and want to know why he said that now. I said, it's the erosion. So, that was the other part of it, less intensive. And also the next part, this is, like I said, it's 3 phases. So we're also looking at bringing in not only just new bushes, but also some panels. I'm talking to Julie Schweitzer, if anybody knows Julie, she runs the, Born Gallery down on Main Street. She's an artist herself. And so I've worked with her before, and we've gotten, grants, and we've worked with kids doing recycling projects and all kinds of things, artwork. So we're thinking of maybe some panels up around the outside. I don't know how many yet, this is in the beginning phase. But to have it where kids design sculptures and things for these panels, so that we've got the kids involved. We can always get grants. Anytime you want to do art with kids, you can get a grant. Julie can write one up in a heartbeat. So, we're looking at that coming on, and then having in front of those panels some more benches, and just plain simple benches. There are so many families that come up there, and they'll spend an hour or more up there. And then if we had more benches around there, they could just sit and enjoy. We still have lots of photographers that come up there, professional photographers that, for hours, I mean, they're up there with camera lenses like this, and they're taking pictures of the gardens up there. I have 2 work days scheduled, possibly it depends on, yeah, depends on the weather, if it's snowing or raining, but, March 16th and the 23rd. HYR is bringing down the backhoe to help us start digging out some of these bigger bushes and starting to minimize what the overgrowth is up there right now. And let's see, any ideas that you all have as far as what you think might work up there? You know, when we're replacing things, I'd appreciate them. And if any of you have plant starts of any of the plants I just mentioned, we could use those too. So, thank you. You said 3 minutes.
Thank you, Darren, appreciate it. All right, just a couple more announcements. April 6th is the Paristown Garden Show. How many people have gone there? Gone there? Not yet? Okay, you should. And you should also help staff the Sunnyside Master Gardener booth that's gonna be there. And if you're interested, contact Joel LaRocca. He's a community outreach person, okay? That's April 6th. I also want to remind you that we've got a still sign up for the Master Gardener training snacks. So there's more days in March. So, you know, we want to be nice to our new interns, okay? Feed them well. I already think we're pretty cool. Okay, let's keep it up. Okay, let's see, one of the things I mentioned last time was a little bit of discussion about the Sunnyside Master Gardener scholarship budget. We had, I don't know how many years they've been doing this, but providing a scholarship for $1,000 to a high school senior who is going into an ag or some sort of agricultural program. And the question came up when we're looking at our budget is, would that money be better served, or our community be better served if we used it to support an agricultural program that exists in the area rather than just one individual? And the executive board wanted to get your opinion before they did anything with that $1,000. Remember, we're being very frugal, biggest bang for the bucks and that type of thing. So had a little bit of time to think about this, I hope. Any opinions? Yes.
Can you give us an example of what you mean by an agricultural program?
Okay. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Prosser here has a program, so it'll be a matter of giving them, you know, the $1,000 to use specifically for that program. And that would have a horticulture, yeah. Yeah, something horticultural, agricultural related, exactly. Yeah,
New Albany's got the program that's kind of like this, yeah.
right, New Albany High School,
Maybe some thought that we would need to explore before we decide.
right, which program to support, exactly. The New Albany High School is starting to get I know they have greenhouses, they've been trying to get a program going again, and we'd be exploring the different programs that are in this local area. And it would be more likely at the high school level. What are your thoughts, other thoughts?
You're gonna reach more kids by taking that approach. You know, a lot more kids are gonna benefit from it, and that's basically what we are doing, is helping the kids too.
Right,
So rather than just one person who's going to go and do whatever she or he is gonna do, you've got 20, 30 kids in a classroom that can all benefit from new workbooks or, you know, tools, anything. And this would supply that for them.
sounds good.
How would you choose what institution would get the money?
Probably similar to, the way we do it with scholarships. We have a scholarship committee, so it would be a committee, that would review the different agricultural programs.
Could that money be split between two?
Whatever the committee wants to do.
I mean, you got FFA in some of the schools too.
Exactly.
We used to do two $500 scholarships as opposed to the current 1,000. And we upped the ante to 1,000 because $500 didn't seem to pay for as much anymore.
Just a book or two gets. Yeah. I saw somebody else said, okay,
Diane,
yes.
what's the board doing for 2024?
Right now, we are. Discussing, the scholarship is on hiatus for this year, because
No scholarship.
no scholarship for this year, mainly because it would already have to be processed. So we're gathering information to figure out what to do for 2025, exactly. Yeah, yes, thank you.
Is the issue that you're not getting the applicants, or I'm just wondering why?
Part of it is, well, we are getting applicants, usually it's one or two, actually, two last year, if I remember correctly.
Now we have 4.
For last year? Okay, thank you. Nina knows more than I do. So we are getting applicants, but it's more looking at trying to make sure that we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. Yeah,
As a
yeah,
former agriculture student who funded myself with $1,000 to $2,000 scholarships, they make a difference.
They do. Other comments? Do you just want to take a sort of a straw poll on what your feelings are?
Yeah, two comments.
Oh, yes, Zoom.
Judy, Judy Wilson, she says, I agree with Deb on the disbursement to different programs, and Cheryl Moore says she agrees.
Okay, all right.
Diane.
Yes.
What did she say?
For us,
Oh, sorry. They basically, agree with that.
Okay.
yeah, for us to give $1,000 to some, group function, and I understand there'd be a vetting process, but it's gonna be a little bit of money in a big bucket, so it's gonna be diluted. If we give a scholarship to an individual, it's a direct impact. So we're serving on the board before, I'm in favor of giving a direct scholarship to an individual.
Okay. Yes,
Is there any reason why we can't do both?
money.
We got quite a bit there.
We
No.
also have that, yeah, Kathy says no. Mainly because, our projects require at least, 6,500 of that is not ours. Another 9,000 goes out to the projects. So in essence, we're, very shortly we would be busted. Yeah. Where the only time we ever gave 2 scholarships was when we had extra donations because one of our members died. We don't want, you know, we don't want you to go anywhere. Yes.
Have we ever had, one of the recipients come back a year or two later, just kind of give us an update of where they are?
We have had some of them do that. A lot of times they've gone to different, you know, they're upstate, or in another state, so it's much more difficult for them to come back. Yes.
They want to come in and they have totally the difference in their nation and receiving the challenge and why would we want to stop it?
Can you repeat the question?
Basically, pro scholarship back there, saying that we have had people come in and come back and tell us what an impact it has
They've
had.
had it hand up for a long time.
Yes.
Now.
That's what I was trying to
If
get.
somebody that,
Yeah.
has a vested interest in the scholarship committee, you know, wanted to be part of it, how would they do it?
Contact me. Yeah, I create the scholarship committee and I'm always looking for people to be on the scholarship committee. Actually, a lot of committees, so yes.
Okay, so on a side note, we've talked about Sunnyside Master Gardeners apparel,
Mhm.
t-shirts and stuff. Can that maybe fund one of the scholarships?
That's a possibility. We need to take somebody to take the lead on creating, taking the lead on that particular, fundraiser.
Somebody can give me the information as where to order them from and stuff,
Okay,
or whatever. Yeah,
Okay, well,
I'd be happy to do that.
all right. I'm not sure, I know we've done it before,
Yes,
so,
sure.
okay, yes.
Just from personal knowledge, because I've taken care of the last 2 or 3 years, most of our scholarships have been environmental type of scholarships, not specifically horticulture or agriculture scholarships. That doesn't mean that's not important because climate change, a lot of people are doing that, but that's what the last 3 years, the scholarships have gone to, is people that are going to school for the environmental impact.
Lisa?
Judy Wilson on, Women says, split 50/50 similar program.
Okay. Judy Wilson says split 50/50, so 500 for scholarship and 500 for program. Nick?
Is the scholarship also open to, junior college, community college?
I don't see why, is scholarship open to community college?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the criteria is basically that it's horticultural, agriculturally related. Yeah. Yes.
I agree with that, but is the question, can somebody apply for the scholarship who's in the community college? Or can somebody in high school apply for a scholarship and go to community college? Which are we talking?
Oh, that's a good question. So which is it, Megan? Can they, use a scholarship to go to community college? Is that the,
I would think if they had an agriculture focus in community college, you know, getting.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had
We've
people
all-
do that.
yes, yeah, so the answer is yes, you could go to the community college, yes, with a scholarship. All right, other questions? Okay, so, are we, how about just a straw poll, just to get a better feel? Because we've had conversations from both sides, does everybody on Zoom know how to raise your hand?
No. Use the reaction button.
Yes, the reaction button, you'll be raising your hand. So, let's put up scholarship first. So all those in favor of staying with scholarships, raise your hand, so your reaction button. Okay, good, I got it. Okay, all right. And those who, are thinking along the lines of supporting a, horticultural program, raise your hand. All right, anybody on Zoom? Three. Okay, all right, so, let's fund everybody, actually, that, I understand that. It looks like the weight is stronger to the scholarship side than, the ag and horticultural side, okay? And that's the information that the executive, board everybody was looking for, okay? We appreciate that. Okay, any final questions or comments? Okay, then I've got a couple more things here. First, don't forget to record your hours. Okay, you knew I was gonna say that, right? Just an update on the Tomato Festival. The committee, has its next meeting on April 1st from 1:30 to 3:30. Let me know if you wanna join, I'll send you all that information. And we need, at this point, tomato growers, people who will take the little tomatoes that we're starting now and put them in the ground, come after Derby sometime, okay? And the tomato, it's like a breeding, okay? We've got these people growing, starting them, and they'll pass them off to the people growing them. And hope that, it'll be a decent season for growing tomatoes so that Tomato Festival can use, and one thing you have to remember about growing these is Tomato Festival only needs the harvest during the week preceding the festival, okay? The rest of the time, they're your tomatoes, okay? You have to be able to absorb them somehow. Now, the other thing is, one of the moves that we want at the, Tomato Festival is as a booth to sell, Master Gardener produce. So, if you've got some extra stuff during that week before before the festival, we'd like that. I know this year I'm growing extra, garlic. A good season for garlic and to sell that, but if you want to sell some onions or whatever, zucchini, okay. We can, that time, lots of us will be tired of lots of different things, so, I'll keep you informed, don't worry, but do let me know if you want to join the committee or are interested in, taking, a tomato and growing it or two. Okay, just looking forward, and the next thing we have is, our next meeting is April 2nd. That we have Kristen Forrest from River Heritage Conservatory, and she's going to present on Origin Park, which sounds interesting. And the meeting will be on at Prosser and on Zoom, as always. And I think we are ready for ready for the education volunteer times, hang on. I think 1 hour for the education, yes.
Just a little over half hour, 36 minutes.
Okay, so, half an hour, 30 minutes for the business meeting, yes, Dave.
I just have a few announcements, for the advanced training.
Okay, okay.
The 2 seconds. Sure.
So it's 3/4 of
Just a few things, the upcoming advanced training is coming up. The first one is June 1st. So we only have 2 more meetings before that. So we're gonna start collecting money for that, and it's $20 per person. And we have a.
No.
What?
We don't have to collect money.
We don't, okay, we're not gonna collect money, I think you're gonna have to go on the site.
But we will sign up a list.
Yeah, we'll have a sign-up list, all right?
What is it that happens?
Crescent Hill Garden.
It's where we go out and visit different sites and you get training.
But which one
on
is it?
that.
Which
This
one
is
is
the,
Crescent
this
Hill?
one is
Crescent Hill.
Crescent Hill.
Yeah.
They're doing a University garden tour. You'll be going on a garden tour and seeing the house also.
There's 10 gardens.
There's 10 gardens, all right?
Peterson Juvenile.
Oh, it's pretty.
For women.
Yes, the Peterson Dorn House.
sorry, I haven't been getting emails, but so is this something that was in the newsletter that you guys talked about, or is this something you normally do? Because I'm new, so is this something you guys
Newsletter.
do every year?
It's in the newsletter.
It's in the newsletter, okay, then I haven't got, so.
Yeah.
Yes. Making
So-
I didn't get it on the website either until they fixed me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the site.
We're
is
feeling very
live
guilty now,
If you
Shelley,
wanna
yes.
go on and see what it's about. You just have to, Google the, Preston Hill Garden Tour.
Yeah.
All right, and the other thing I have is we have a change on the Turtle Run Winery Tour. That's gonna be on Wednesday, August 21st, instead of August 7th. We had a conflict and, with the owner, so, we had to make the change. Thank you.
Jane, what's the date for the waterfront botanical?
Which one?
Waterfront botanical?
Oh, Waterfront Botanical Gardens is Saturday, June 15th.
That's the one, sorry, that,
Okay, so those are the three. That's Crescent Hill 30th Anniversary Garden Tour, Saturday, June 1st. And then the Waterfront Botanical Gardens Tour, will be Saturday, June 15th. And the Turtle Run Winery is, Wednesday, August 21st.
There'll be a bunch of information in the next newsletter, an article and all.
Yeah, so next newsletter, there's gonna be an article about all the advanced training.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right, so, secretary, has that pushed them over into, 3/4 of an hour, or we?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so, 0.75 for volunteer hours, okay? Okay, all right, so, we're going to, call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay, say your name, so.
Holly.
Holly, okay. And a second?
Second.
Okay, Bonnie seconds. All those in favor of adjourning, and then we'll do the door prizes, say aye.
Aye.
All those who stay here, say aye. Okay, so door prizes